Guys, my name is David Ross. I'm here to speak about user experience and design. First of all, thanks for coming out. This means a lot to us to have all you guys come out, learn from us, and coming out this early in the morning. We appreciate it. Hopefully that coffee's kicking in. Everything stays awake for me. I'm a senior application user experience designer. I've been working with medical platforms, legal applications for about 8 years now. I met Amadou and Coders4Africa about 2.5, 3 years ago and learned a lot about what they were doing, and I just got really excited about how I might be able to help our team. So I came in and I started using my design experience to enhance all the programs they were doing. I'm going to talk about a few things. User experience, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the term. I'm going to define it a little bit and get into some examples and how you guys can apply it. If you guys were to use this application, do you know what's going on here? It's a little weird, right? This is an example of a poor user experience. You go to the airport, you type in your flight number, you try and get something, you try and get feedback, but your flight number is even coming back. So this is a common thing for a lot of software. It's not that useful. And so what we want to do is really focus on how easy things are to use for your users. So what is user experience? It's how a person feels when they're using your platform. This can be when they're using your website, if they're using your application, your Twitter feed, any type of communication you have with your clients and people is how they're going to perceive you and think about you. Even if you meet them in person, that all goes back to how they think about you and your organization. So you really need to think about everything that goes into that experience you're giving for a person. And that can be positive or negative. It can reinforce trust, or you can make them feel a little uneasy about your product. There's a lot that goes into user experience. Probably a lot more than you used to. I want you to think about, when you've heard the term user experience, a lot of you probably think design, how things look. And that's true. Design aesthetics are the user interface. This is the beauty of an application. The way the screen is laid out and if it's attractive. That's the side I come to, and a lot of designers have come into user experience. But I want you to understand there's a lot more to the experience that you can provide than just the look of it. You need to think about utility. Utility is, you have to have a clear goal. Are you delivering value? Is there a clear purpose for your application is? Marketing, anytime somebody comes in contact with your brand, that needs to reiterate and be consistent with what you're trying to do from your platform. Performance. The guys are going to touch on this a little bit later, but this is a very big part of how people feel about your software. A lot of this boils down to data. If your site is responsive, quick, and you're getting the information back quickly, it reinforces a good experience for the user. Accessibility. Accessibility deals with you have to make sure anyone can use your platform. A lot of us get caught up in, if you're a developer, you get caught up in, you can use it, your client can use the platform. But do you think about 14% of all people have disabilities of some sort? They can be slightly colorblind, they may be visually impaired. So if you're building your software to be to modern code standards, it's clean, you're not relying on color, you're able to bring everyone into the fold. Ergonomics, this is something that if you have a physical product where you're tying into using your software in a physical way of some sort, you have to think about how people are going to use your product every day. This material, the shape and the size of what you're using, and this changes based on where your users are at. Lastly, we have usability, which is thinking about how simple this is to use. Does it make sense when you come into it? Can your grandmother use it? Can your nephew use it? Because we often get caught up in the people were around using the platform and making sense. And human interaction is something, this is where people start to learn about software. People come into your platform and they start to expect certain things. These are called affordances. So save buttons, interactions that people kind of expect to happen. So as creative as you can get with your platform, you have to respect how people understand computers. And that's there's a lot that goes into this. So user experience design is crafting all of those things to create the desired experience you want for your user. Your desired experience can be trust, confidence, fun. It could be fear or warning or safety. And these are things that you need to consider for what you're trying to make your people feel. So I'm going to give some good examples. If you guys recognize these companies, think about what you feel when you see them. What's this? Yeah. Squarespace. So when you see these brands, they've really identified what's important to them. They have simple messaging, and when you see them, you have a feeling of what they're trying to deliver. They have clear action and value, and the language they use, it's not too technical. They spend extra time to think about the way they communicate with their users. It's a very human tone. It's very conversational. Here's why it matters to you. Are you software developers? Can you raise your hand if you develop programs? Do you work on a software platform? Okay, or you're some way invested in a successful platform. It's everyone. Yeah, that's why we're here. If you really think about the experience you're delivering, it's going to deliver increased productivity, increased sales, training, development, maintenance costs. All the stuff goes up, and your users feel comfortable, and they feel like they can trust your system. So there's a lot of value in really thinking about it. So a lot of times people think that user experience is just spending extra design time, but it's a lot more than that. You're investing in the quality of your product, and to do this, you really need the whole team. The map I showed earlier had design, ergonomics, performance, and honestly, as a designer, and I've been doing this for 8 years, I need the whole team's help to really make everything work. So it takes collaboration. At the beginning of a project, what we do is we bring the developer, the client, myself, and everyone together, and we collaborate on what's needed for the projects. And often you'll hear us argue about what's important, what we can deliver and what we can't deliver. It's a good thing because when everyone gets their point of view out there, everyone feels like they have input, and they do. Everyone has ownership. Everyone can understand each other's goals, and you learn a lot about what it takes to deliver a good product. So you're all here because, in some way or another, we're involved with Coders4Africa. There are a lot of considerations that you need to take. All those principles that we talked about, design, utility, marketing, they're all different in the U.S. as they are in Africa. We have different data performances, we have different devices. 11% of people are using smartphones, of the people that even have smartphones. So you have very different uses of your software, so you have to be very cognizant of what you're trying to deliver to these people. In utility, people have very different needs. Here, we don't think of money the same. There's a lot of more monetary transactions. I'm sure you're familiar with this. So the needs of what people have for their software is quite different. These guys will touch on the performance and some of the interaction stuff. So I'm sure you've all done projects, or if you're here, you've had projects in the past. And how often do you finish your project and then it's done, and you kind of feel like man, I wish we could have gone back and improved that a little bit. We didn't have time, we didn't have money. And that's where, you know, at the end of the day, maybe you didn't take the experience seriously. So here's tips for your next project. In the beginning, you got to bring everyone together, define your goals, and write them down. What do you want your users to feel when using the product? Get everyone's input, your client's input, your developer's input. You need to really understand how they think of the app a bit more. It's not just the client. Your job is to encourage them to understand how the users can use their platform. And everyone's knowledge and experience is really valuable. And the biggest thing is user experience doesn't stop when you launch. And this, I think we've all been guilty of. You get a project out, and you don't follow up on the metrics a lot. Kwame is going to talk about metrics a little bit. But when you find out what your goals are, you really need to track them and chase them. And, you know, when Dropbox came out, it wasn't that friendly. When most of these successful products that we know now, they weren't as useful when they launched. So you can keep improving and keep making your product where you want it to be. It doesn't need to be perfect in the beginning. And just understand that as long as you're iterating and improving your product, you can get it to where you want it to be. Anyhow, that's pretty much it. It's really hard. Like, I can't tell you an experience for your product, for what it should be. It's really up to you. It's really up for you to decide what you want your product to be, bringing everyone to the table. This is a time tracking software that I use almost every day. It's really colorful. I mean, their goal is to make it easy to do time input. But I really value the way their mantra is with how any software should be. Software, if it's easy to use, your customers are going to be happy. At the end of the day, that's what you want. You want your customers to be happy and comfortable, and they'll come back and they'll keep using you instead of better. Because the first time you don't, you slow down your user or you make them feel uncomfortable, you might lose them. So it's just thinking about making them happy at all times. How many more time? All right. So if you guys have any questions, I know there's a lot of considerations with what you're trying to deliver, but I have a couple tools that I use if you want suggestions on enhancing your design process. There's different tools you can use in the beginning when you're collaborating with the client, when you're moving on to the beginning stages of development, and then following up with your development team. Personally, I like to sketch out with the stakeholders on Post-it notes and grid paper. It's the best physical way to see what you're doing. And then to do high-level sketching and prototyping, I use these two platforms. There's about 100 of them. I have this resource here, so you can kind of flip through and see what you might be comfortable using. These are web-based platforms, so you pay a monthly fee, but it's really a way for you to quickly visualize the information you're trying to say and to share it with the clients. If you guys want resources on who's really leading user experience and different organizations, these are a couple of people. Look them up on Twitter. Great ideas every day. And extra resources and information. We'll have these slides so you guys can download them, but these are a lot of good links that you can spend some time on and really help to. Yeah.
What is your experience working with developers?
My experience working with developers. This is good.
We'll do the questions.
No, we're done. That's all I have. Yeah. No, I have a minute or two? Okay, I'll be back. Thanks, guys.